Welcome to day 222 of TFIF 365. And today I want to just unpack some things that I've been observing, and I just want to talk them through with you. So again, I'm not saying I have any answers. What I'm here is to ask questions that people don't usually ask themselves, and then to give you a framework of supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free for which you can start practicing making decisions, right? So yesterday I talked about the binaries are dangerous, deadly to a coalition. And it was in reference to some protesters who were heckling Vice President Harris at her Michigan event. Today is Friday, so that would have been Wednesday. And so one of the responses has been, and I'm going to be honest, I still don't know who those hecklers were because I've heard several stories. So this is another reason why we need to be mindful before we jump, right? I've heard it was pro-Palestine protesters. I've also heard that it was third-party protesters. So I don't know who these protesters are, right? But one of the questions that was asked is, why are y'all, if this is pro-Palestine protesters, why are y'all not also protesting and heckling at Trump's events? And the answer or the response was, because it's too dangerous to do that. And then it becomes this back and forth of, what kind of protesters are they? Like Martin Luther King didn't just go to black churches and when John Lewis went across the Pettus Bridge, I forget that again, my brain, I think it's Edward Pettus Bridge, but and for Bloody Sunday when he got beat, it wasn't in safe environments. And so now you have this generational friction coming up again where folks, baby boomers who actually lived through the 60s and the efforts to desegregate and for voters' rights. And then you have their children, the Gen Xers, who are like, okay, we heard these stories. What do you mean you want to be safe? And then you have millennials, Gen Z, who are on the going to these things. Not just to say they are, but that, young people are they're the revolution. In every generation, the youngest are the revolutionaries, right? So let me start before I go any further with this caveat. I don't go to protests. I don't like crowds. So this is not personal to anything. I'm that person when I see a crowd anyway. I don't go to big concerts. I don't like crowds. So I would not put myself in a situation where I'm protesting because I don't like crowds. I just cannot deal with that many people, all that noise, all that sensory stuff that's going on. It's just not good for my mental health. So I wanted to add that, again, complete transparency. And yet I found the things that I can do and I can be a force with, which is wrangling good white people. Telling good white people for the first time that you are complicit in the harm that is inflicted, the harm, chaos, and destruction that is inflicted through systems, institutions, and policies rooted in white supremacy and anti-blackness. I am uniquely qualified to do this work. So I go out and I get called all kinds of names. I mean, like I said recently, I got called nigger I don't know how many times on Mastodon and right after she announced, or she was catapulted, whatever you want to call it. So I get that. And when I look, and so one of the major problems I had with the Bernie Sanders campaigns, and besides the fact that he has no depth and has no ability to talk about race, for him everything is about class, which was also problematic in the fact that you had the ear of the revolutionary young generation, and all you did was rile them up. You did not direct them in any way. You did not teach them about protesting, how to protect themselves. It was just a whole bunch of rage. And when all that rage, when you're trying to be revolutionary and all you have is rage, all you do is flip tables, those tables will fall on the most vulnerable. And that's usually not white people. And that was another problem I had. There was way too many angry white men in the Sanders camp, which is not progressive to me at all, because they sounded and behaved no different to me than Trump supporters, right? And so I've also been saying I have a problem with these terms: progressive, liberal, moderate, and conservative, because they don't mean the same thing for me. And so a lot of the things that people call progressive are now just mainstream. Most people want them. So that's not the progressive thing. So I'm saying all that. I want to give some background. So as it relates to what you're causing a disruption in, this is the narrative. You're causing a disruption for the one campaign that can help you, because the alternate campaign has no plans but to continue and accelerate the harm that's happening to Palestine, in Gaza, and to Palestinians. And this is where these conversations, they have to be nuanced. They cannot be binary, because I get their instinct to say, hey, we're not going over there because it's dangerous, but that's problematic, because you need to make them uncomfortable. If that is your role in this, is to protest, then you need to protest. But again, people are treating it as a binary, as if you can't put a whole That's what I'm missing. That's what I'm missing from this revolution. It's strategy. It's like the ideas that people come up with. It's like, have you thought that out? Or if it's a good idea, how do you put that together? Because for me, none of the marches that happened during the civil rights era happened in isolation. They happened with community. People strategized. People came up with plans. People weren't one-offs. No one was trying to be a hero. They knew that together, again, I always say this, we get there together or not at all. So if your thing is protesting, then you need to go to the folks who are actually causing the harm. But you don't need to go there in ways that inflict harm on you. No, you go in a crowd. You meet their shit with their shit. Now, if that's not your thing, like it's not mine, then you sit that out. But you can't. I have a real issue with protesting in safety. That just is counterintuitive. There are a lot of, if you don't want to go to that, I get it. As a black woman, there's no way in hell. I live in the South. I deal with these motherfuckers. I've dealt with these people all my life. I don't want to be in a room with them. I don't want to be in space with them. So I get that. And yet, just be honest. Just say, hey, we're going to this. I mean, they were honest. But they should have they should have expected the pushback. They should have expected the pushback of, oh, you'll go to a safe space and be disruptive, but you won't go to the people and highlight and scream and holler to the people who are actually causing harm, who have no problem marching in the streets in their KKK and their Nazi regalia and all that. So we really need to think about this. We really need to be strategic about this. It can't be these isolated, these one-offs. Oh, I have a great idea, so I'm going to do this thing. No, it's a coalition. If there's a call that says, hey, we're going to this Trump rally, you won't be alone. There are many folks who want to go and protest in front of a Trump rally. But don't think you have to do it again. That is what supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free is. It requires you to self-reflect. It requires you to be honest. It requires you to hold yourself accountable. And it also requires long-term vision. It requires not a one-day strategy, because that is what happens. And so I can say I would prefer them not to go to Trump rallies if what they're going to do is stir up a hornet's nest and walk the fuck away, and then the most vulnerable who are around those people every day get hurt. So there's a conversation that needs to go on about what does, because people want to talk about social justice, but how do you do it in a way that prioritizes the most vulnerable and minimizes harm? That's all I'm talking about. So just say that again, you're afraid to go, just say that. But don't make it seem like your fear to go is the strategy. No, if you wanted to go, there could be a strategy around how to protest in very safe ways because people have done it for years. And then, again, there are people who want to take it head to head and do the fight. Let them do it, right? But don't just opt out and make it seem like it's insurmountable because I'm going to say this, and I have a problem with the leadership, the folks who are guiding these young people. This is was my issue with Bernie Sanders. Y'all have to do better with these young people. Y'all really have to. They have the energy, they have the wherewithal, they just don't have the wisdom. We have the lived experience of how to do this. We need to be sharing that with them. We have the wisdom of how to do this safely. Just like during the George Floyd global unrest, it was Palestinian activists and protesters who showed Black and brown folks here in the U.S. and globally how to protest safely. That's what you do. Go to those people and say, hey, we're a pro-Palestine initiative, right, or a group, and we want to know. Go to them. How do we protest against that? But we always trying to go off on our own and recreate the wheel. This is a coalition. We cannot continue to do that. Always go to the most vulnerable because they could tell you, because they've had to survive this, how to do this. So that is just my take. It's not a right or wrong, good or bad. It's just, can we think about these things differently? Can we stop with the binaries? Can we have nuance? Can we have strategy? Can we plan? Can we go to the most vulnerable and let them and take their lead, right? Or let them, take their lead. They don't have to be out on the front because they're the most vulnerable, but they'll be impacted. But they can show folks who want to do that how to do that better, right? And I'll end with this. This is why when there were the protests with the George Floyd, and I told white people, if you were going to those protests, your job was to make sure that you stayed on the perimeter to protect the brown and Black people who had a voice. You had no voice. You shouldn't have been elevating yourself. You should have been there as just a boundary around, putting a boundary between those vulnerable protests and the white folks, white supremacists, whatever the hell they were that were trying to attack them. That was your role. So here, maybe there's a strategy around that. Go to the people who are impacted and ask them, it's novel. Ask them how we can best support you, right? And if they say, whatever they say, again, I don't go to protest, whatever they say, follow that lead, right? We cannot continue to overshout and overtalk the people who are directly harmed by this. So that is what I have to say about that. Again, it's more questions. How can you do, if people want to protest at Trump events, how do you create a strategy around keeping folks safe? Instead of opting out and we'll just keep disturbing the one party who would listen to you, and we'll have to put up with the bullshit. That's just and it doesn't have to be disrespectful, because I know this is going a little longer because I was processing this out. People have to realize that disrespecting Black women is going to come differently. This is why I say this is a black ass campaign. This is not anything that y'all have seen before. Black women are so used to motherfuckers trying to disrespect us and talk over us at work. We're not having that shit. So the fact that she responded the way she responded as a Black woman, I understand this. It may not have been appropriate, and she will learn her lessons. But the people who did that also understand that, baby, this is a different race. This is a different thing. This is a black ass race, and you're gonna get black ass responses. And if you can't handle that, if you receiving black ass responses causes you problems and causes you want to, and in turn not be an ally. That's why I can't stand that fucking term. Or in turn quit or flip a switch and cause harm. Then you're the fucking problem. Then you have to face the fact that you are propagating and perpetrating and complicit in white supremacy. So until tomorrow, peace. Become a sustaining sponsor at kimcreighton.com/support-the-work and help make this work happen.